Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to explain why you might have an inkjet printer from HP that leaks ink or spills ink from the bottom of the machine or from the back of the machine, and this is something that happened to me a lot of times. I've worked on so many of these printers, so yeah, it's something that happens a lot to me, and I'm going to explain you why that happens on most of the HP printers and why it does not happen on other brands of printers in most of the cases. So every inkjet printer has some pads inside, some absorbing material that catches the wasted ink that is wasted from cleaning cycles or purge cycles when you replace a cartridge, and that wasted ink gets collected and absorbed by those pads, and those pads contain the ink so it doesn't get spilled out of the printer itself. Now what happens with HP, differently from other brands, is that HP does not monitor in any way the amount of ink that these pads are subjected to. As an example, if you have a printer like an Epson or Canon or Brother and other brands of inkjet printers, you might encounter at the very end of the life of the machine, so after a lot of use, you might encounter an error like parts inside of your printer have reached the end of their service life. For Epson, an absorbing pad is full on Canon and unable to clean on Brother. Those are all the errors that you can get if the pads inside of your printer are saturated. They cannot accept any more ink inside of them. So because the printer monitors actually very carefully the amount of ink that gets inside of those pads, when the threshold value is reached, it will block the printing, so it will not let you print anymore until you bring the printer to a service center. They will probably replace the pads and reset the counter, and then you're good to go and you can print again with your printer with no problems whatsoever. But with HP, it's different because the HP does not monitor the amount of ink that gets absorbed by those pads. So what happens is that those pads get completely saturated. They cannot accept any more ink and absorb any more ink. And you will reach the point where the printer will generate wasted ink that is not absorbed, so it will spill out of the pads and onto your desk or any surface that you have your printer onto. That's something that you actually could encounter if you use a printer like this. On the HP PhotoSmart 5520 or 5510 or these variants, I encountered this problem a lot of times. I encountered this problem also on some printers like the HP Office Jet Pro 8600 Plus or the 8500. A lot of HP printers actually have this problem, but other brands just don't have that because they monitor the amount of ink that gets collected in the pads. So let's talk a minute about why inkjet printers generate waste ink and why you cannot really avoid something like that. So inkjet printers work as they have a print head that have a plate of nozzles on the lower side, and those nozzles are a lot of tiny, really tiny holes where ink gets shoot out from and gets onto the paper and forms the image. Just to simplify that a lot. And onto the print head you have the cartridges. Let's see now what I mean. So these are the 4 cartridges in this case, and this is the printhead itself. Those cartridges are seated on top of the printhead, and ink gets pulled. And ink gets pulled out of the cartridges and into the printhead, and from the printhead it gets onto the paper itself. Cat is very interested about this printer. Yeah. So what happens is that inkjet printers are really a lot susceptible to long periods of time where you don't use them. If inkjet printers are not used very often, so less than once a week, probably you will get some ink that dries inside of those nozzles, inside of the printhead. And if ink gets dries inside of the printhead, you will have a horrible print quality with white lines all over the page. And to avoid something like this, the printer runs a cleaning cycle to remove the dried ink, hopefully, and replenish the inside of the printhead lines with a fresh amount of ink from the cartridges. Now, something similar happens when you replace the cartridges. Because you see, when I remove a cartridge from the printer, air can actually get inside of the printhead. And so when you install a new cartridge in, well, you could have air inside of that channel. And that is bad because it's like having some dried ink inside of the printhead, so some nozzles will not print correctly. So what happens is that the printhead moves on top of the purge unit, the cleaning station, or whatever you want to call it. It's a pad the printhead gets onto and gets attached to from the bottom. That pad is connected with a pump that sucks ink from the bottom of the printhead. So it sucks ink from the bottom and it forces any air or dried ink out of the printhead. Okay, so that's how the printer cleans the printhead. Now that wasted ink that gets pulled out from the printhead gets absorbed by those waste ink pads. So that's how the printer generates waste ink. And that's why you cannot really avoid something like this, because it's part of the technology of inkjet printing. You cannot really avoid something like that. So it's not something like I've seen on a lot of YouTube videos, like oh, they waste a lot of ink because they want you to buy more cartridges from them. No, it's not like that. I mean, it's part of the inkjet technology. You cannot really have an inkjet printer without this ink system. So I hope this helped you figure out why you might have an HP inkjet printer that leaks from the bottom. If you have any questions about this subject, you can leave them in the comments below and I will answer every one of them when I have some time to answer them. Just one thing before I go. Some printers have a user-replaceable waste ink container. A lot of Epson printers do, and that is a very good thing, because when the ink pads gets full, you have to bring the printer to a technician and they will charge you, well, quite some money. I think more than 50 euros for sure, so more than 80 USD, I think, for sure, for this work. And on a lot of Epson printers, newer Epson printers, you can just open a cover, take out the maintenance box, install a new one, and you're good to go. And those maintenance boxes are extremely cheap. So that is a very great design, and I hope that a lot of printer manufacturers will implement this on a lot of printers in the future. That reduces obviously the amount of printers that go to landfill dramatically, because, well, a lot of people just, when they get those messages about the ink pads, absorbing pads, or they have a printer by HP that leaks, they will just take the printer and get it to a dumpster, and yeah, will end like that. So thank you once again for watching the video, hope it helps, and see you in the next one.